Good afternoon and welcome to Money Matters. My name is Kimon Hatza and I'm a business attorney at GrowthCounsel in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I represent companies across industries in a variety of commercial transactions. I have a focus on life sciences and technology companies. Tonight, we're continuing our special series on life sciences leaders in the Delaware Valley. Before we get started, I'd like to remind our viewers that from time to time, financial issues relating to life sciences matters or companies may come up on the show. These discussions are not and should not be viewed as financial advice. Moreover, since the show is recorded and shown at one or more subsequent times, the information may no longer be current. You should always check with your financial advisor before entering into any financial transaction. I'm happy to have with me as my co-host, Charlie Huntington. Charlie is the head of public relations for Life Sciences PA. Life Sciences PA is the voice of advancement for the life sciences in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Charlie, thank you for co-hosting.
It's a pleasure, Kim, and thank you for having me.
Charlie, I was wondering if you might just take a couple minutes and talk to our viewers about any recent events and any upcoming events at Life Sciences PA.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity to highlight two events. First, this year, Life Sciences Pennsylvania has it's called Life Sciences Southwest. This is a program that's going to happen in the Pittsburgh area. And as you know, it may be based in King of Prussia, but it's a statewide industry trade association. Life Sciences Pennsylvania is. And so this will be on the 24th of April. They'll be hosting a program with some great speakers, and I would encourage our viewers to consider that one if you're interested in the Pittsburgh marketplace for life sciences. And then May 14th is the annual tailgate. And as you know, Kim, and that's a great way to get out and see colleagues in shorts and T-shirts and their food trucks and their prizes for the best tailgate setup. And I will add the best tailgate setup is awarded the 4 seats right behind home plate at a Phillies game. So Citizens Bank gives those up each year and lets Life Sciences Pennsylvania give them out as they see fit. And it's going again this year to the team with the best tailgate, the company with the best tailgate. So thanks for letting me talk about those, Kimon.
Sure thing. That's a fun event, and it's always, well, regardless of whether you win the tickets or not, it's a great event. It's a lot of fun, so I hope people will come out and attend. Well, as you know, we've got a great guest this afternoon, and I'm excited to bring him out. But before I do, I just want to remind our viewers that if you have a question that you would like us to answer on a future show, watch this short video to see how you do it.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, Send us your questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, MONEY, -matters, MATTERS, TV.com.
It's my great pleasure to introduce our special guest this afternoon, Ken Valuvanee. Ken is the CEO and founder of Facet Life Sciences, whose mission is to transform how small life sciences organizations bring great science and innovative products to and through the FDA. Ken began his career in the life sciences as an IT professional for SmithKline Beecham. He developed expertise in electronic document management, electronic publishing, and regulatory processes required by the FDA. Following his years at SmithKline, Ken joined Anderson Consulting for several years as its U.S. regulatory IT support lead. Thereafter, Ken pursued his entrepreneurial instincts and founded 3 successful companies. The first, Apix Inc., formed in 2002, was focused on regulatory operations services and electronic publishing and document management required by the FDA. In 2009, Ken sold Apix to ISI and stayed on as its VP of Global Professional Services. Not long thereafter, ISI was acquired by CSC, and Ken continued with CSC, one of the largest players in the industry, for an additional 2 years. Seeing the industry consolidation and focus on drug development consulting for large pharmaceutical companies, Ken saw an opportunity to serve a different segment of the market and formed Virtual Regulatory Solutions, Inc., or VRS. VRS focused its business primarily on high-quality outsourced regulatory affairs and regulatory strategy advice, while offering a cloud-based electronic document management system as well. As client demand caused the addition of broader drug development services, VRS rebranded as Facet and expanded to meet a full suite of R&D needs. Recently, Facet has added asset valuation and commercial launch capability services as well to further meet client requests. The cloud-based document management business was spun off into a new company that successfully raised outside funding. What remains is Facet Life Sciences' multifaceted core business. Ken, welcome to the show.
Kevin, thank you. I appreciate it. It's great to be here.
Ken, what first attracted you to a career in the life sciences?
I'm an IT guy by training and background, and excuse me, I got my first role working at SmithKline as a networking analyst, and wound up supporting an organization that was getting involved in what was then an emerging area in R&D, which was taking what had been very heavily a paper environment, management of regulatory documents and provision of those to FDA, and moving into an electronic space. And I absolutely fell in love with the concept of how we enabled all that and how technology could evolve to make these things happen, both within FDA and within the life sciences industry overall.
How would you say that your early experience at SmithKline and Anderson Consulting helped prepare you to be the entrepreneur that you became?
There were a couple of things that kind of converged. One of them was as the electronics, aspect of regulatory affairs started to really hit mainstream, there was an opportunity to continue to advance those standards and really have an impact on how this affected drug development and registration globally, not just with FDA, but also in Europe and throughout the world. And I felt there was an opportunity there for me to develop expertise and really help move that needle. Combine that with, a little bit of my wily nature where I kind of didn't see anyone that I felt was doing it right. And since I'm not a very good follower of rules, I decided it was time to start a company and make our own rules.
So it sounds like that was the impetus for your making the leap from IT professional to founder of your own business, which the initial one was Apex.
Yep.
After you sold Apex, and again during that time period, you saw like the consolidation within the industry and where the focus was going, and you identified an opportunity in the market that maybe others weren't really emphasizing. You started VRS as a particular thing, but then the offerings at VRS started to grow. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how VRS's focus began to broaden and change over time.
Absolutely. When we started VRS, kind of the story of VRS really is a little bit of the evolution of Apex and the acquisitions and consolidations in our industry. VRS was created to meet the needs of smaller emerging life sciences companies that had the absolute same regulatory burdens that the larger guys did, but with a much smaller resource base to be able to meet those burdens. VRS was meant to meet that specific target, but as we started working with these companies and focusing purely on the regulatory strategy and the regulatory affairs needs, what we found is they were asking us for more and more. And within a period of about 4 or 5 years, we realized that they weren't really coming to us for just regulatory affairs help. They were coming to us to help them build a broad drug development strategy and then execute that strategy. So we started to evolve our offerings bringing in more experts with different areas of expertise that we could start to integrate. And essentially what we wound up doing was evolving VRS from a regulatory affairs company into Facet Life Sciences, which was a much broader, faceted drug development advisory and execution company that really could take a small organization that had a good idea and help them go from concept all the way through to registration and commercialization.
Wow, that's great. I always ask this to our CEOs who've come from different backgrounds to do, what they end up ultimately doing. But is there a particular aspect of being a CEO of a life sciences consulting company that you find particularly challenging?
Yeah, when you're running a life sciences organization, at least a consulting organization like this, where we're providing really high-end scientific consulting services, our staff are all highly educated, highly experienced. My standard joke is I'm the least educated person in the company, with a full team of PhDs who have 15 plus years of in the trenches experience. Really, the challenge is creating an environment for these folks where they feel continually challenged. They're always working on cutting edge stuff. But a lot of what we do is working on programs where there are no pre-established pathways with FDA. So we're literally breaking ground with almost every program with FDA. So creating an environment where our people both feel challenged to go out and do brand new things, but supported enough that they're comfortable making those kind of reasonable risks and taking those bets. Figuring out what that balance looks like is kind of the thing that both keeps me up and keeps me going on a daily basis.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Charlie.
Can you tell us about Facet Life Sciences, please?
Absolutely. Facet Life Sciences is a virtual organization, all completely science-based. Our focus is working with exclusively what we call emerging organizations. So smaller organizations, typically they're running on friends and family money or kind of a seed fund money, nonprofit organizations, and university research centers. Our focus really is on looking at these organizations who have really innovative science, but not necessarily a clearly defined pathway or a support structure to help them get there, and providing that support structure to help them define that pathway.
So why are you guys in this business?
Facet's story is one really around consolidation. When my first company, Apex, was purchased, we saw this massive consolidation of particularly the regulatory services organizations, where they were being gobbled up by either large clinical research organizations or very large consulting companies. And those companies were doing what you would expect a large company to do. They wanted to work with other large companies, which meant they were working with and seeking out the top 50 pharma companies. They were looking to do long-term contracts around mature products, which is not a bad business model, but frankly, it's not a whole heck of a lot of fun. You're not really doing anything brand new. You're not doing anything overly exciting. And while that focus was there, what we noticed was that what I jokingly call the bottom 40% of the industry was being largely ignored. That's where all the cool science was. That was where we could build relationships and really feel like we were doing something important. So the idea of Facet came out of meeting that unmet need, or what we saw as a largely unmet need.
And so, Ken, your focus for Facet would be in what principal areas?
Facet can handle and does have experience in just about any indication you can possibly imagine. If someone has developed a drug for a particular disease state, we've worked on it. So broadly, we have a huge background, but things that are kind of emerging areas where we do have particular experience. Radiopharmaceuticals, we were involved in the first 3 generations of leaps forward with radiopharmaceutical registrations at FDA. We're heavily involved in ophthalmics. We're heavily involved in psychedelics now, which is one of the hotter areas in research. And we're also working in several areas in oncology as well. I think we have something like 15 or 20 oncology programs that we're helping to move forward and manage.
So can you give us an idea of the types of businesses and organizations you guys would most frequently work with?
Absolutely. My standing joke is if you've heard of them, they're probably not one of our customers. We typically are working with companies that have less than 3 products in development, generally nothing marketed. As I said, they're generally either running on friends and family money or they're running on VC seed money. They are pre-clinic, meaning that they haven't tested in humans, but generally they've done enough of their non-clinical testing, their pre-human testing, to think that they're ready to engage with FDA and talk about getting FDA permission to start testing in humans. That's typically what we call an investigational new drug application, or an IND. We get involved with them generally right before that stage. We'll help them understand where their program really is. Have they met the burden of safety evidence that FDA is going to ask for to be able to successfully engage with FDA and get a green light for clinical testing? We will do that analysis, provide them feedback. If there are gaps that they need to meet, we'll help them meet those gaps, and then we'll help them prepare the investigation, the new drug application, to get FDA approval to test in humans. And then we will hold their hands to the extent that they want us to, from that point all the way through to market launch or wherever their chosen target is for divestiture.
I don't know if you answered that. There was a last question I know that I thought Charlie was going to ask you about what stage in development, but I think that was incorporated in your last response. So let me go ahead. So who are your principal competitors now in the industry?
Competition in this space is kind of interesting because of the slice of life sciences company that we choose to work with. We find ourselves at kind of either end of the spectrum, either independent consultants who are generally very, very good at one thing, or very large consulting firms or clinical research organizations who kind of do everything. And each of those has a negative associated with them. The independent consultants, while good at one thing, when you are ready to engage with FDA, when you're ready to ask for permission for clinical testing, or you're ready to ask for marketing permission, you need to bring more than one skill set to the table. You need to be able to bring a large set of organized disciplines to the table: clinical, non-clinical, regulatory, chemistry. Those things all need to be there, and an independent consultant typically doesn't have that, so you wind up bringing in multiple independent consultants. And essentially, as if you're a small company, you wind up trying to manage and organize all of these strong opinions. The other end of the spectrum are these very large companies where they have, kind of a playbook, and that playbook is generally focused on what a larger pharma or life sciences company would look for, and not necessarily aligned to the needs of the unique aspects of a smaller company and their individual program. Hence, Facet's offering of essentially bringing the best of both of those worlds together, bringing very experienced people to the table who have multiple disciplines and can work with a customer to create exactly what they need in a way that is both cost and time efficient and takes their limited resources into consideration.
Okay, so we've talked about this before. That's the one size doesn't fit all necessarily, and this is
absolutely
is what you guys really bring to the table that other folks can't. What are the biggest barriers to entry for potential competitors in your industry?
There are a couple aspects that come to mind. One of them is experience to begin with. when you're working with these smaller companies, largely they have one product. That means they have one shot on goal. So you need to get it right the first time, every single time. And realistically, kind of the only way you do that is with experience. So experience takes time. The other piece that goes along with that, though, is the ability to get the right answer and coordinate that among multiple experts and deliver that consistently over and over and over again. And do that in a way so that you're not creating necessarily a playbook that just gets reused consistently, whether appropriate or not, but creating an environment where the machine, for the lack of a better way to put it, understands what a program is like, can digest it, can figure out what the best pathway is forward, and then deliver the right solution every single time for every single customer. And that's very hard to do, to create that repeatability over and over again when circumstances change.
Understood.
Hey, Ken, what would success look like for Facet?
I would argue that we have had both a business model and a scientific approach that has been working successfully for 13 years. We're now on our 14th year of business. So to some extent, I think we can kind of put a little check mark in there and say this model works, both the business model and the way we approach this scientifically. On a longer term basis, this is something that I would love to see expanded out to other areas of life sciences, not just the R&D and commercial space, but other ways that we can work with life sciences companies, and to see this model continue to be propagated and passed on and carried forward to another generation of leaders at Facet Life Sciences.
Thank you. And so the Mid-Atlantic and Northeastern states, sort of from greater Philadelphia to Boston, are rich in life sciences resources, as we all know. Kim and I, for the last 20 years, have been quoting, if you draw a circle around Philadelphia, 80% of the world's pharma is somehow connected here. So how important have these resources been to the growth and success of Facet?
Well, on a purely selfish basis, this is where I started my career in life sciences at SmithKline in suburban Philadelphia. So, we could kind of say it all started here. But certainly we have our share of customers in the Mid-Atlantic corridor, and that does provide a bit of a base for us. But we operate internationally, and our customer base is not only all over the United States, but Europe, Asia, and Australia as well. So where we love the innovation that happens in Philadelphia and kind of propagates out to the rest of the world, we see this as a great region, but one of several great regions for us to do business and continue to advance great science.
And just continuing on that with one additional question, Ken. You have a number of folks working for you now, and they're very talented, and they're not all from this area, right? You've uncovered resources in a lot of different places. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that.
Absolutely. When Facet was founded, we founded it on the principle that we didn't necessarily need to be in a particular geographic area, as long as we found ways to keep our team connected and coordinated. So we were set up originally and maintain ourselves 14 years later as a virtual organization, which gives us the ability to hire the absolute best scientists we can find, regardless of where they are. And I think that gives us a tremendous advantage because we don't have to worry about, well, this is the best guy we could find in Philadelphia. This is the best guy, period. And we can connect that with a customer anywhere in the world.
That's great. Ken, and I know some of these people are people that you work with, but what advice do you have for folks who have spent their careers in the life sciences industry, whether they're with a pharmaceutical company, a big pharma company, or as a researcher at a university or elsewhere, who are considering starting their own company around technology that they've been working with for years, maybe in some instances?
It's a good question. We see this a lot because we work with lots of universities and research centers where somebody they have a great idea. They're connected in with the tech transfer office and they're looking to potentially spin out into a private company. One of the things I talk with people about a lot is that in the life sciences industry, we're not actually in the business, or we're not actually doing science. We're in the business of science. And that's a very different distinction. If you're doing research for research's sake, there is a lot of latitude and there's a lot of space that you can run with your research. When you're researching for commercial purposes, generally there's a predefined space that you're going to want to work towards. There's a target that you need to reach, both to satisfy FDA and what FDA is going to want from your research, but also you need to remember that you're doing this for profit motive and you will likely have investors involved. So you need to balance both of those things. And when you're just doing research for research's sake, those are not necessarily things that are as important to you.
Okay.
So Ken, when we were prepping for the show with you, we told you that we've had alpaca farmers, we've had private pilots, people doing cookbooks. You've had a fascination with hockey for some time. Can you tell us where that came about? And Kim and I think we have like one more minute or two, so we got to keep the answer pretty concise.
Absolutely. Hockey's been a part of my life since I was a small boy. I started playing when I was 5 years old. Believe it or not, I started playing outside Dallas, Texas. And when my family migrated up here when I was in my early teens, I had an opportunity to really play competitive hockey. So I played hockey from about the time I was 6 until it was in my actually early 30s, including playing Division I in college. When I started Apex and kind of got into that space in my career, hockey had to go in a way by. But after a 30-year hiatus, I've started playing again, and it feels absolutely fantastic.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's great, Ken. Well, listen, this was a terrific show. Thank you so much, Ken. I'd like to thank our special guests, Ken Valuvanee and Charlie Huntington, for co-hosting. The next guest on Money Matters will be Aaron Cirksena, the founder and CEO of MDRN Capital. Thank you all for watching this afternoon, and we'll see you again next time.